So let me give you a story. I have been a couple of stories. I'm just going to blend them all together. I've
Okay.
been spit on twice. Who
Ooh.
thinks that they're going to show up at a place of professional work and be spit on?
Uh-uh.
I've been cussed out multiple times. I've had
Mm.
to throw, people out of ball games. Now, I don't want to say that being an administrator is awful and hard and these are my everyday happenings. It's not. You're dealing with like 2% of the population that are misbehaving. 98% are perfectly lovely. But still, if someone is in my face yelling and even so heated that they are spitting on me,
Oh, yeah.
how do I capture that so I don't throat punch them? Because that's really my first
Yeah.
reaction is like, oh, no, you didn't disrespect me. I'm going to throat punch you.
Ooh, it's time for jam sessions with Tina. She's got leadership, insights, and more. Come on in. Leave the titles at the door.
Welcome, everyone, to Jam Sessions with Tina. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have the honor and privilege to be talking with Bethany Rees today. Bethany is a transformational voice in leadership who blends humor, grit, and faith to equip and empower leaders at work and home. With experience as a teacher, administrator, and entrepreneur, she has been there, gone through that, bought the t-shirt, and now shares those leadership insights through her popular Leadership on the Rocks book and podcast. As a devoted wife, mom, educator, and CEO, she knows what it takes to lead teams, organizations, and a busy family. Bethany lives in Central Arkansas with her husband, Jason, and their 2 children. Bethany, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, Tina, it is so great to be here. I'm so excited. I love everything that you do and the light that you give to the world. And just to be in your presence is just an honor. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm going to give a total disclaimer at the beginning of this. Bethany is one of my favorite humans ever. I just love her. I could sit and talk with her all day long. So you will probably see that in the conversation. It's just so easy to talk with her. And I love how it's as soon as you meet Bethany, it's like you've caught up with a friend you've known your entire life. So you all are going to enjoy this conversation with her. And I'm going to show you this right now because y'all look. This is her book, and we're going to talk about some of this throughout our conversation today. I love it, love it, love
Yay.
it. It stays near me. I think it kind of helps keep Bethany near me when, just to be, it's how it keeps her near me. But I know we're going to have a fantastic conversation. Was there ever a moment in your own leadership journey when you realized people were paying attention to how you showed up and not just what you said?
Oh, Tina, you're like throwing a fastball straight off the, first
Yep.
pitch. Okay. So that's a big question. And I have to be honest that I've never even thought about that, right? How many of us like sit around and pontificate and reflect on our leadership and when it actually started? And not me. That seems so formal. But in you asking that question, what I can say with truth and grit is that it started way before I ever had a title. We are so quick to label ourselves different things that we think nobody's paying attention to us. I label myself, I'm a helper. I love helping people. Like, who needs a volunteer? Let me volunteer. Let me serve you. Let me help. But being a leader, being in charge, no, thank you. I don't want that headache. So avoiding it like the plague. But there does come a time when you're serving, when you start to notice that people engage with you a little bit differently. They're number one, giving you eye glances, like trying to read your face, your facial expressions, like, what is she thinking over there? And then they'll just straight up ask you, what do you think about this? Like, what idea do you have to solve this problem? And before you know it, people with titles, people that, you've only met a couple of times, they're engaging with you on a different level. And it does make you perk up and say, why do they even care that I'm in the room with them? And then you start saying, well, maybe I do have something to offer and bring. Because leadership at the end of the day is influence. That's all it is. You don't have to have a title to lead. And so well before I ever had any title in any organization that I've been in, I felt like I've had influence, but I'm only seeing that now that you've asked that reflective question. I didn't see it at the time.
It's easier for other people to see it in us versus us being able to see things in ourselves. I'm a great example of that. You saw things in me. Y'all, this podcast would not be happening, first of all, without God, of course. But
Absolutely.
God used Bethany to say, Tina, you've not hit your expiration date. And I put out, it was like a Batman signal into my universe of, does anyone know a career coach? And I'd done all of this work, but I was like, I don't know. Maybe I've waited too long. And through Bethany's leadership, it wasn't Tina here, step 1, 2, and 3. It was just the way she just guided me. She has such a way of being a leader. But I think that's a lot of people, they don't see that in themselves.
I agree. And I think one of the things that I love doing is being a mirror to show people their own awesomeness, right? And not in an arrogant kind of way, in a humble way, but like, man, God created such an amazing person in you, and he has so much for you that you need to go give to the world. So let that light shine, baby. Like, let's go. And Tina, you just, ever since we met, I mean, I could just like sit here and cross my hands and just listen. I'm like, you have so much wisdom. Share it with the world. Go forth, because we need it. People like me that have to learn the lesson the hard way, we need your wisdom. So I'm so excited that you're doing this podcast.
Why do you think so many people underestimate the influence they have on others?
I don't think, and this is myself included, we think so much about ourselves that we don't think about others. And not necessarily in a selfish, evil-hearted kind of way. Like, well, who am I? That imposter syndrome. What do I have to offer? Why would anybody pay attention to me? Kind of things. And before you know it, you're just thinking about yourself. You're not thinking about others. And you always have influence on others. It can be positive, it can be negative, but it's never neutral. At some point, you're going to sway the environment, whoever that is, whoever is in front of you, whether it be your child, your spouse, your friend, or your team at work. You're going to sway that environment, positive or negative. And so the way I picture it, y'all, I was raised on a farm, and so you're probably going to hear it occasionally in that accent, especially with y'all and fixin'. But I was raised on a farm, and we love to go fishing in the pond. But another thing that we love doing is if you're standing at the edge of a pond and you see a rock, you better bet I'm going to pick up that rock and I'm going to throw it.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it in the pond. And the thing that you notice with those rocks is it always creates ripples. We have to realize that we create ripples in every engagement that we have with other people. And so you want that influence to be positive. You want that impact to be a positive one, not a negative one. And so I think the reason we underestimate that is we just think about ourselves and not our impact on others. We don't think about the ripple effect of our behavior, our attitude, our actions, our silence. Ooh, that one hurt. All those things. And so we underestimate it. But the truth is, you're the rock and you're making ripples. Make them positive ones. Make a positive impact. Maybe, you're going through something that feels more like a desert. Like you don't have a pond to throw your rock in. You're carrying the rocks and there ain't no water around, right? People are still watching how you're carrying the heavy stuff.
Ooh.
And so even if you're not around water making ripples, people still watch. How do you carry the hard stuff? It's so important because we all go through hard stuff. Nobody is immune to hard stuff. And so how do you carry it? You still influence people even whenever you think, I'm going through the worst of the worst situations. How you're walking through that is still a light and a lamp to other people. And we hope that it reflects God's light and lamp and his path through that.
Your book talks about the body of leadership. And you introduce the body of leadership framework. What inspired you to create this framework?
Most authors write the book that they needed, and that's 100% true with me. So I was a high school administrator, opened a brand new high school in Texas, massive, school system, massive district, all the things, massive high school. I'm bigger than the college that I went to. So this is outside of Houston. So we had moved from Arkansas to Houston with my husband's job. And I was so overwhelmed with all of the different stimuli. We're going to call it that, right? But it's problems, conflicts, constraints of everything in leadership. And I just felt like I was showing up, and every single day was 1,000 fires that was going to burn my leadership down. So how do I put out those fires? What I came to realize, it's not really firefighting, is leadership is really navigating a wilderness. And again, I said this earlier, but everybody goes through hardships. Everybody goes through a wilderness, if you will. You're trying to navigate every situation before you. That is leadership. That's life on this side of heaven. And so the body of leadership helped me anchor of how do I navigate this wilderness? I feel like I'm in Jumanji level 5 right now. I don't know what's coming at me. Like how?
Yeah.
And so, the God just downloaded on me as actually reading the Sermon on the Mount. And at the very end of Jesus speaking the Sermon on the Mount, the very end of all of his wonderful things about, how to live in God's kingdom, the upside down kingdom, he says, those who listen to the words of mine and put them into practice are like the wise man who built his house on the rock. And the man who listened and heard them, still heard the words, but didn't put them into practice is like the foolish man who built his house in the sand. And so we know this story. Some of us can even sing that song, but when the storms came to both people, the storms come to both people, is the one who had his foundation on the rock withstood the storm, and the one who had the sandcastle life, the sandcastle leadership that was based on the trends and fads of the world, it came crashing down.
Yeah.
And so as I'm sitting in that, I'm like, God, how do I navigate these storms in leadership, problems, conflicts, constraints? And he's like, you got to get your head right. You got to get your heart right, your hands right. And girl, you got to have some guts. Remember, I'm a helper. I'm a people pleaser. I love serving. So accountability specifically was hard for me. And that's where the framework came from. So let me give you a quick, 30,000 view of the framework is, the head of leadership is your mindset. How do you think about things? The heart of leadership is relationships. How are you connecting with other people? The hands of leadership is execution, and that's how are you getting it done? And then the guts of leadership is accountability, and how are you owning all of those decisions and owning the situation? So that's what inspired the framework is how do you navigate all the stuff? You got to run all the situations that you're going through the body, the head, heart, hands, and guts. Because I needed it. So that's the book I wrote. I wrote the book I needed.
How do our beliefs, attitudes, and mindset influence people even when we're not intentionally leading?
Ooh, let me tell you. So we know that our actions, like we talked about the rock, our actions definitely have effects on other people. But before we ever have actions, you have to back it all the way up. Your beliefs create your thoughts create your words create your actions, all of these things. You got to back it up to the mindset that you have. How do I think about things? Because how I view the situation in front of me, how am I thinking about it, is going to directly affect how I engage with the thing in front of me, the environment, the person, whatever. And so, the Bible talks about we have to capture our thoughts to Christ. And so as I'm in a situation, let's say, I'm going to go with a situation we all know because everybody had to go through some sort of schooling in their life. Yeah. And that is also just my background. But let's say you're in an environment and you see two kids heating up, right? You feel like a fight's going to happen because the environment, you sense it. And so I can get stressed out over that, and I can elevate that situation by thinking, oh no, here I go. I have to deal with another student, fight or whatever, and I'm getting mad about it. And before you know it, I'm yelling and I'm, escalating that situation because I didn't capture my thoughts. And so I made a huge emotional response to the situation in front of me versus capturing the thought and saying, these are teenagers with hormones going on, and I'm sure that there is some sort of status war. So how can I step in and separate them and get them in their own individual spaces so that they can get out of their emotional brain and back into their logical brain? And so if I capture my thoughts and remove myself from that, then I can respond to the situation in a better way. And you have to have the mindset of a leader. You have to be able to capture your thoughts, reframe them in a different way so that you can respond. And so you have to have the mindset of a leader. It's huge. So capture those thoughts in the situation because your actions will always flow from your thoughts. And we don't want your thought to create a spiral of negativity where you have that big reaction.
How do you separate the emotion from the thought? Because emotions, at least it is for me, emotions are always connected somehow. So as a leader, how do you stop that responding to the emotion and looking at the logic of the thought?
Yeah. So let me give you a story. I have been a couple of stories. I'm just going to blend them all together.
Okay.
I've been spit on twice. Who
Ooh.
thinks that they're going to show up at a place of professional work and be spit on?
Uh-uh.
I've been cussed out multiple times. I've had
Mm.
to throw, people out of ball games. Now, I don't want to say that being an administrator is awful and hard and these are my everyday happenings. It's not. You're dealing with like 2% of the population that are misbehaving. 98% are perfectly lovely. But still, if someone is in my face yelling and even so heated that they are spitting on me,
Oh, yeah.
how do I capture that so I don't throat punch them? Because that's really my first reaction is like, oh, no, you didn't disrespect me. I'm going to throat punch you, right?
Yeah.
And so I have to have a mantra. A mantra is something that I say internally most of the time. Sometimes it's externally to stop my thinking because our thoughts are so quick. They happen like lightning. They go so fast and they can spiral out of control so fast. And so I have practiced, I have written down mantras, of what to say in a situation to help stop that spiral from happening. And so whenever someone is getting heated, I'm like, there's something deeper here. I just tell myself there's something deeper here. And then I can step away and then I can take a hot second because I've stopped that train from spiraling out of control. There's something deeper here. I start asking, what is it? Why is this person being extremely emotional and heated and angry right now? How can I de-escalate? I start asking myself a lot of questions and I'm staying curious as to why their behavior is the way that it is. Now, I don't want to jump to, conclusions. I don't want to make assumptions, but I can start asking questions. I'm so sorry that this situation is happening. Can you tell me more? By keeping my tone low and asking a question and staying curious, but I couldn't have done those actions to de-escalate if I hadn't captured my thought with a mantra. Something to stop that thought process. So whatever it is, come up with a mantra. Bible verses are great. Anything that you can to stop the thought train that spirals out of control for you.
There's people that you say the term emotional intelligence, and sometimes I get eye rolls, and I'm like, but it's so valid. You have to have such, as in any kind of position of leadership, requires such emotional intelligence to be able to say, it's not about me. There's a greater, something else is going on in this person's life. I just happen to be the person in the way that they're taking it out on. Yeah. It's been my experience. Very rarely have I ever been in a situation where somebody was truly trying to do something intentional towards me. It was just wrong place, wrong time. Has that been your experience as well?
Absolutely. Or I'm a safe place for them to show their true emotion because they don't know how to deal with it. It's such a big emotion. Think about that with your family members. You have such a close, safe relationship oftentimes with family members that you're going to see the ugliest of emotions. And these are with the people that we love the most. And we will do it to them as well. We may have an overreaction with our family where we wouldn't have that at work. And it's because it's a safe place. And so we have to make sure that we take that, capturing of thoughts to Christ in home, at our home and at our work, because we love people and we don't want to spew all the venom that's in us in that moment. We want to capture it and try to change that. But the emotional intelligence, I'm so glad you brought that up. There really is two sides. It's asking, what am I feeling right now? What is prompting this feeling? And maybe I feel like they're disrespecting me. I feel, that they don't value me, whatever. So you got to pinpoint how you're feeling, what's causing that feeling, back it up and say, how can I step into this curiosity? Or maybe ask more questions to get their true intent. And then when it comes to them of being able to read a room, like leaders, you need to be meteorologists. Learn to read a barometer, read a room and watch people's faces and ask questions. Okay, what does that facial expression mean? If I can't, if it's not evident, ask. I sense that there's some confusion in the room. How can we clarify this? That just ask an open-ended question to get more information. And so emotional intelligence really is about you and how you're feeling and then managing that, but then also sensing what the room is really feeling as well and asking more questions.
There are people that are transactional or there's people that's relational. And to be in leadership, you have to be relational. You have to be able to develop those relationships. For me, when I think of leadership, I know people go to career, but I think of home first. And then I think of career. Because if you're not doing it right at home, don't even think about it at work, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And it just makes me so sad to know how many people give all of their life and their health. Let's call a spade on that one with the current stress and hustle culture, especially in America. But you're giving your life and your health to your organization, and your organization will replace you the next day that you leave. And you are irreplaceable to your family. In
Yes.
our society, and this is the sandcastle life. I was talking about the rocks in the sand. If you are following the pressures of the culture versus biblical principles, then you're going to build a sandcastle life because you're following fads and trends and pressures, the environment pushing that sand around, and y'all sand chafes. I mean, it gets in those nooks and crannies of your life and it just rubs you raw, right? It rubs you raw
Yeah.
physically, emotionally, relationally, all of those things. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up. You have to lead at home first. And sometimes that looks like you're not the person answering the email at 8 o'clock at night because you're with your family. And you don't have to fear that, hey, I'm look like I'm behind. I look like I'm not hustling. Whoa, 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 whoa. When I'm at work, I'm there and I'm giving, 100%. I don't believe in the 110%, but I'm there to do the job and I'm doing the job. But when I'm home, guess what? They get my 100% because I'm
Yeah.
at home. And so we've got to do a better job with having those boundaries and not feeling guilty about it.
What messages do people receive from how we connect and communicate and treat others, even when we don't realize we're sending them? And we've kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to dive deeper into that.
Yeah, absolutely. The heart of leadership is how do we connect with others? And that has to deal with communication. And guess what? You've got to collaborate with all these people too. So we got to learn how to communicate, understand them first, and then be understood. But then also, how do we work together? And so, some of those messages, number one, let's just start with your nonverbal, like fix your face, girl, fix your face, boy, like fix the nonverbal side of you. Learn to be aware of that and, strip yourself of quick, immediate judgments and assumptions and literally try to understand. And so stay neutral in the face or maybe with a smile, like stay positive in your nonverbal language and lean in. I can't even tell you. Have you ever walked into somebody's office or maybe they're at the computer and they're sideways to you? They're not even looking at you, or maybe they turn their
Yes.
head, but they don't turn their body. And, you know, your nonverbal cues are huge. So lean in to people, give them eye contact, and let your face relax. Like even relax your butt cheeks. It's amazing how your face and your butt cheeks are kind of tied together with like tension. So release it all and then just be present with them. And that's really going to help build a better relationship because you're fully present with that person. And you're going to learn to communicate a lot better by first listening. So it's so important. I want to touch on one other point. Whenever it comes to, relationships and communication, you were talking about the messages and how we receive and connect, right? I want you to think about walkie-talkies as a child, right? Where you and your friend would have a walkie-talkie or a cousin, and you would have to be on the same channel for it to work. And so often we are not on the same channel as people, and we are missing the connection. And true communication is about receiving and sending messages. And so whenever you're on the wrong channel, you can't. And so make sure you're choosing the right channel of how you choose. Like if you're in a deep, serious conversation, do not put that in a text. That needs to be a verbal conversation. Like we got to do better. We got to do better. Our email culture at work absolutely sucks.
Yeah.
And so we've got to do better. Let's have a 2-minute conversation versus 20 emails going back and forth over 2 days. That's terrible communication.
Yes.
And also recognize that a lot of people need more information. People cannot read your mind. And so at work specifically, if I am saying, okay, guys, here's the goal, here's the plan, and a lot of times we'll just deliver the information and say, any questions? And that's all we do to lean in. But you've got to follow up with, and here's the detailed summary. And people need it differently. Some people just need the give me the main title, the headline, right? That's all I need. Some people like, give me an outline and then I can follow through. Some people are like, give me the whole manual. I need to read it all to understand it. And so you as the leader, you've got to supply that information to people. And so whenever you send a recap email, like after a staff meeting, have the heading, here's the summary, executive summary, here's an outline of all the main talking points, main key takeaways, and then here's an attachment with all the details. Now you're serving everybody and giving them the information in a way that it can be received. So it's so important to pick the right channel. The hugest failure that we do as leaders is we make things so stinking complicated. Like your first question as a leader when it comes to execution is, how can I make this easy? How can I simplify this? How can I streamline it in order to get the most important thing done first? And so that really is the first step. What's clear, what's most important, mission critical, what's the easiest way to get it done where it's streamlined. And then you actually have to have those processes in place. Systems and processes make the whole thing work. I want you to think about your body. I mean, this goes back to like seventh grade biology, right? Your body has systems. The systems do one thing really well, but they work with all the other systems. Have a circulatory system, have a respiratory system. Have one system go bad and the whole body doesn't feel good, right? And it makes it sick. So we have to build those systems that are interconnected to get the work done, but do it in a way that's simple. Let's stop making things so stinking hard with red tape and bureaucracy. Like simplify the work, people. Simplify it. And that means also saying no to some things. Take some things off the plate. And just focus on what's most mission critical. So true.
Sometimes there's not an update, but just to say, I told you I would contact you. I'm doing it. Here's when I hope to get an answer for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that bleeds in perfectly to the guts of leadership, which is the accountability piece. It's ownership of, am I following through and doing what I said I was going to do? And you gave the absolute perfect example of that. Nobody likes a hypocrite. We can all agree we don't like hypocrites, but man, are we such bad hypocrites. Like all of us are so guilty of this. Do as I say, not as I do. And everybody knows it when you say at work, here's the way that we're going to do this thing. This is the way we're going to behave or what we're going to do. And then you don't follow through on it, right? Guys, we gotta have these crucial conversations, to give feedback and join a feedback loop or whatever. And then before you know it, somebody's misbehaving and you're not talking to them about it. And yet you pass a new policy for everybody through an email. They're like, that's really meant for Bethany over there. Why are you sending it to all of us? Oh, it's because you're not willing to have a hard conversation, like people know when we're being a hypocrite. And so we really have to take ownership and do what we say we're going to do. That's being a good steward of what God has given us. And it starts with ourselves. Am I owning whatever is in my charge or my care? And am I meeting the expectations that I have for other people? That's huge in parenting too. We have expectations for our kids, but if we're not living it out, you've heard this a million times. More is, caught than taught. Doesn't matter what I say. If I'm not doing it, it's going to teach them that hypocrisy is okay and acceptable. And that's a huge error in our parenting.
Which of the four areas, the head, the heart, the hands, the gut, do leaders most commonly misunderstand about the example they're setting for others?
And thinking about that, I could easily dive into each of those sections, right? Thought process, because how you talk is your external talk is often your internal talk. And then your kids pick up on that. How you talk to them becomes their inner voice. So there's that. And then the relationships of how you connect and have conflict and all that. So I could dive into each of them individually, but the most commonly misunderstood one, I'm going to go with the guts of leadership, accountability. And here is why. Let's go back to how we started this conversation. Tina, it's all coming full circle. How we are a rock with impact. Everything that we do does have a greater impact and it ripples out. We may not see the ripples, right? Because the rock, once you throw it, it goes down to the bottom, but it has a lasting ripple effect, impact that we don't always get to see. And so much with accountability is my beliefs, my behaviors, how I show up. But it's also, how do I engage with other people, especially as I have two kids. I have a 21-year-old and a 16-year-old. 21-year-old has left the house, but he called us the other day and he's like, my car won't start. And we had to help him walk through, well, what do you think it could be? Maybe the battery? Well, then now what can we do to check the battery? So no matter what age they are, like we want them to have the skill sets to be successful adults, going back to what you said. But we have to also show and kind of move the curtain back of how do we think about things. And so I think this is why it's so misunderstood. When it comes to accountability and stewardship, I have to be intentional and not just saying, hey, go clean your room. But no, this is why we keep a clean room. I have to explain the thought processes behind things. Or as I am walking through something, again, this can be at home or at work. Let's say I'm walking through stress. Stress takes a huge toll on us physically, but also emotionally. And it makes me more short-tempered, right? I can be short-tempered at home. I can be short-tempered at work. And so if I am experiencing stress, which is a lack of resources to get the job done, I can now explain to my kids, I'm so sorry if I've come across as short-tempered. I'm going to work on that. Let me explain what stress does to the body and how I'm fighting against that.
Yeah.
I have a lot of projects due at work and timelines. And again, kids don't want to listen to lectures. Don't lecture. I always called it 30 seconds of awkwardness with mom. And it helped me to keep it like low. I'm going through a lot at work and it's really stressful, but I'm also learning how to deal with it so that I'm not short tempered. And I'm sorry, you saw an example of me being short tempered. So here's what I'm doing, I'm praying about it. God, help me to release it because you own it and I don't. And help me not to have a short temper with my kids. Boom, 30 seconds. I am now teaching them behind the curtain of my thought process. I am being a steward of all the other things in leadership and saying, here's a problem that I'm dealing with and how I'm working through it. Real time. Now
Oh,
at work, I can do the same thing. You've heard, in leadership podcast books and all the things, great leaders are vulnerable, they go first. This is what that's talking about. Guys, I know that our project has a short turnaround, a short deadline. We don't have enough resources. This is stressful. So let me call a spade a spade. And here's how I'm working to navigate the stress in my own heart and mind. Blah, 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 blah. Explain what you're doing. But then also, it also is forcing me to think, what is most mission critical out of this project? Because we can't do it all because of the short timeline. So let's choose the most important thing to do. So, guys, let's have that conversation.
yeah.
See how I'm now showing them my thought process of, yeah, it's stressful. It's not just you feeling it, I'm feeling it. Here's how I'm dealing with it. And here's how I'm going to respond to it. I'm going to have to say no to everything and say what's most critical and focus on that. So, the most common misunderstood thing is accountability of showing people behind the curtain of how we process the problems, conflicts, and constraints, the wilderness of leadership. How do we navigate it? You have to show others how to navigate it so that when they start carving their own paths, they know how to navigate the wilderness of leadership in their own lives, in their home, and at their places of work.
First of all, everyone, go get if you think this conversation was incredible, go get the book right here. It is just so full of wisdom and insight. You're going to want to get a copy for you. You're going to want to give it as Christmas gifts. It is just so incredible. Bethany,
Thank you.
how do people, other than going and purchasing your book, how do they connect with you? And whether it's on social, how do they, if they say, you know what, Bethany's somebody, I want to come speak at an event, I want to connect with her. How do we do that? And tell us, what do you have going right now? Tell us all the good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words. Everything is at leadershipontherocks.com. So you can go there. There's links to all my socials. I try to stay, branded leadershipontherocks.com, and everywhere is Leadership on the Rocks. Now, LinkedIn, I do have my name, Bethany Rees, as well. But you can go there. If you want to talk about a training, a speaking, any of those things, I do coaching trainings, and keynotes. You can just click on a free discovery call. It's free. We talk for 30 minutes. Tell me what you would like. And we can talk about any of those things, whether it be training, keynote speaking, or coaching. Feel free to do that. You can also order the book from that website. So everything is at leadershipontherocks.com. As far as what I have coming up, I absolutely love helping leaders navigate the wilderness. And so I really have this push towards helping bring in the new crop of leaders. So if you have new leaders stepping into their role, or maybe they're young in their leadership, 5 years and below, like that is my sweet spot. I would love to help serve you in their leadership development. And I'm actually growing in my certification. So I'm already certified as a John Maxwell leadership coach. So it means I can use his curriculum as well. I'm DISC certified with personality assessments. And then I'm now going to be the Working Genius certified. And it's how do teams come up and work together? And how do they show up in that project in order to bring the work together? And what is their working genius and how they show up and give to the team in that project? So I love doing that. It's a little bit different than personality assessment. And it really affects the team. So I'm certified to do that. And I would love to work with your teams and you, whether it be coaching or training. So leadershipontherocks.com. You can find me there.
It has been just an absolute joy to be able to sit here and talk with you. And I could just sit and talk with Bethany, I think, about just about anything except math. But I could sit and talk about...
I can't talk math either.
Just about anything. You are just such a light and a love. And you are a blessing. You are a true blessing. And thank you.
The feeling is mutual, Tina.
Oh,
Mutual.
Thank you. But just thank you for stepping out in faith in the gifts that God has given you and saying, you know what, God, I'm going to use them to the best of my ability. And you've just helped so many people. And when we talk about the ripples, the people that you've now helped tens of thousands of people because of you. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Come on in. Leave the titles at the door.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Jam Sessions with Tina Eliana. Please subscribe to our channel, download this episode, and share it with someone. You can also listen to the Jam Sessions Jukebox at jamsessionswithtinaeliana.com. Take care, and until next time, I'm Tina Eliana.